morning, good morning, good morning. Today, y'all, we are going to be talking the power of voice marketing. And I call it voice marketing instead of audio marketing because the power of voice is just that. It's so powerful, whether you're using video or whether you are just using your voice, meaning some of the great opportunities that are available to us today. Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces is coming, which I'm a little bit excited about whenever I get it. But anyway, the power of audio, aka your voice, is so powerful. And I connected with today's guest over on Clubhouse, was immediately like blown away by the level of energy that she brings. You're gonna get it in just a minute. You're gonna trust me. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing, because that was exactly my initial impression of her. So you're going to love it. You're going to get a lot of value today, especially if you are the person who is scared, or scared, such a scaredy cat word, but if you're a little fearful of getting in front of the camera, then audio or voice marketing could be your jam. Okay, so I'm excited about this. Let me get a couple of things out of the way. As you guys are coming in, just give me a shout out. Where in the world are you? So we have Ursula. Good morning, Ursula. And Veronique, I think. Hopefully I said that correct. So Susan, good morning, good morning. So a couple of quick things as you guys are coming in and you're getting all settled and you're getting your piece of pen and paper out if you want to take notes. Will you be so kind as, if you hear amazing things that you love, just drop in some of those little emojis. And if you know somebody that would get value out of today's show, please hit that S button and sprinkle it out into the world so that other people can have experienced this, because trust me, you guys are going to be blown away by today's content. I'm super excited about it. Okay, so a couple of other things that I want to run out there to you real quick. You guys know that we give away stuff on every show. So today's giveaways, since we're talking voice marketing, we're going to do 2 Clubhouse. I always get my fingers mixed up. 2 Clubhouse invites, and that, in order to get the most benefit out of this, one, you don't need to be, obviously you're not going to need it if you already are on Clubhouse, but you also need to be on an iPhone. That's the only other drawback. It's only available on the on iPhone at this particular point in time. And then we're also going to give away something I'm super excited about. We are doing new designs for my store that was getting ready to roll out. So we're going to give away this Don't Speak, Almost There, I'm Listening mug. Now, if you drink coffee, you're so going to understand this, right? So don't speak to me if I've only had a sip. If I'm about halfway through my cup, yeah, you can maybe start. But the reality is I got to have my cup of joe before I get going in the morning. So we're going to be giving away both of those things, 2 Clubhouse invites and the mug. The way you can win. So this is the key. You have to drop in your aha moment, y'all. So if you have an aha moment and you're like, that's so amazing. I needed to, either 1, needed to hear that, or 2, I needed to rehear it. Right? Sometimes we hear things and we know things, but we need to rehear it. So if that's you, drop in your hashtag aha moments in below, and we will, that's how we choose the winners, y'all. Now, another thing that I'm super pumped about is we have a brand new sponsor let's get this off the screen. We have a brand new sponsor for the show, and you guys, you're seeing part of it. I've been moving things in and out of the screen, off the screen, onto the screen, so you guys can see it, right? So our new sponsor for the show is Restream. Now, Restream is a way for you to do cool things, like you can go live, you can bring in a Zoom meeting or a webinar, for example, and you can live stream it. So can you imagine if you were doing a webinar and the added benefit of live streaming it, right? So with this little tool, you can do that. And you can also see all the cool little comments. Like you'll see, I've been bringing people onto the screen. I'll show you a little bit more about that in a moment. So you can see the comments from all the social platforms that you're live on, and you can highlight them on the screen, which is, again, super cool. And honestly, the list is long and distinguished when it comes to Restream. Yes, you can even stream your pre-recorded content as live content. Now, why would you do that? Well, I think the value of doing that could be that you could stream as a live video, as a pre-recorded video where you feel like you've got it a little more together, and then you can be super active in the comments and really focus on engaging with your community. So if this is super exciting for you and you're like, I need to check this out, just go check it out at kimgross.com/Restream. You're going to love this little tool. I'm super pumped about it. In fact, I mentioned a moment ago, I was going to share a couple of people that are here. We've got Jeannie is in the house. So good morning, Jeannie. And then we have Chuck. Hey, Chuck, good to see you. So Chuck is in my business mastermind, and he is doing some incredible things, y'all. I'm super pumped for him. Paul, always glad to see you. And yes, you're going to be, so he's let the cat out of the bag. Yeah, did I say that right? Sometimes my brain operates faster than my tongue, or my tongue operates faster than my mouth. One of those ways. Anyway, so all right. So here we go, guys. Don't forget your aha moments, because I want you to win today. So I want to pull up and introduce you guys to McCall before I bring her on, and you get to see her and experience her. You're going to love her. Okay, so and let me pull that back up. I don't talk fast enough. Hang on. Attention of Russell Brunson, y'all. So if you don't know Russell Brunson, he's kind of a big deal. And she just saw an opportunity. And I'm going to have her share that story. So guys, put your hands together for McCall. Hey, McCall.
Hi, friend. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you? Hang on. Let me get you.
So good.
All right, hang on. I'll get us in here. This is, like I said before, this is a new tool. And all right, hang on. What is going on here? Hang on. We'll get this. I promise. I think. Wait a minute. All right, so there we go. And why is this doing this? All right, hold on. All right, so hang on. Let's see what is going on here. Okay, so we got her, but I can't figure out how to get both of us on the screen.
That's so odd.
This is so crazy. So give me a second to figure this out. Actually, I just don't understand what I am doing wrong here. All right. All right. Come on. Come on.
We'll just do some dances. You know, we got shout out.
Okay, so you know what? We're going to do this the old-fashioned way. I'm going to talk. I'm going to ask a question, and then we're going to bring and then we'll put you, because I can figure out how to get me on the screen, and I can figure out how to get you on the screen. I just can't get us side by side. So we're going to, awesome. While you're talking, I'm going to try to figure this out. This is the joy of live video, y'all. Like things just happen, right? So I have a quick question for you. I listened to a couple of interviews where you shared a little bit about your journey, how you got started as an entrepreneur. And I think there's a lot of really interesting story background around that. So can you share that story with everybody?
I would love to. Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version because it is a long story. So my name's McCall Jones, you guys. I see in the comments that the audio cut out when you guys saw my little introduction, which is totally fine because I'm here live, so this is perfect. So my name is McCall Jones. I own a company called Charisma Hacking, and my journey started a really long time ago. I grew up as a child performer. I was performing in front of audiences of 20,000 when I was 8, 35,000 when I was 11. I was acting as a teenager. I did so many things in front of people, but I did have incredible performance anxiety. I had this recurring nightmare when I was very, very young that one day I would wake up and not be able to sing anymore, not be able to speak anymore, not be able to perform anymore, and that I would have nobody love me, which I know sounds really, really dark, but all of my worth was really wrapped up in the fact that I was a performer, especially when I was a little girl doing all these big things. So, like I said, I had this recurring nightmare, and I was always looking for ways to get that back, right? People would tell me I had the it factor, which is very, very nice. But for me, it just made my anxiety kind of go through the roof because I didn't know what that meant. So I didn't know if I lost it, if I'd ever be able to get it back. So I was always looking for ways, like I said, that I could measure that or that I could get that back. So the first thing that I did is I would count the people when I was done performing who would compliment me. I would try to get it to a certain number every time I performed. And, oh, it says that I'm frozen. Oh, I'm so sad. Am I frozen?
Okay, I don't know. She's frozen. Okay, guys, let's try this one more time. There we are. I see you. You're moving around on my end.
Yeah.
So I think we're good.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so the first thing I would do is I would count the people who would compliment me, and I very quickly realized, now I say that it was not a healthy thing, but when I was, 8 and 9 years old, the only thing I realized is that it really wasn't a measure if I was doing a good job or not, because people could lie. So I had this experience when I was 9 of I was performing on the program with Donny Osmond. I don't know if you guys know who Donny Osmond is. If you guys know who Donny is, I want you to give me a hashtag Donny Osmond. He's amazing. He's the coolest guy ever. But I was performing on the program with him, and I was waiting backstage on this boat. It was the Steve Young retirement benefit cruise, and there was this little room divider they were using as the backstage area. And Donny started interacting with the audience in a way that I had never seen before. Really, I heard it first. The audience kept reacting to him in ways that I had never heard. They were laughing when he wasn't singing a funny song, and they were just doing more things than I had ever heard. So I snuck out behind this room divider and I started watching, and really I became very envious of what was happening because he looked like he was having so much fun. He seemed so relaxed, and like I said, this audience was going crazy for it. So immediately, being envious, I started logging in the things that he was doing with his voice, with his face, with his body, the things he was saying, who he was pointing at. And backstage, I started making a checklist of like, okay, I wonder if I did those things, if I could get a similar reaction. So like I said, I performed right after Donny. So I like to say that Donny Osmond opened for me when I was 9, but I went out and I performed right after him, and I did these things, right? I pointed at the people he pointed at, and I did the things with my face and my voice and my body, and I got the same reaction, which was really cool. So once I was done singing, instead of counting the people who would compliment me, which I just saw Christine said, amen, don't count the numbers. I had to stop doing that. And in this moment, I realized that I could, because now I had my first what I called checklist. And these checklists really saved my life. They became the standard of how I would perform. So I went through my checklist and said, did I do all of the things that Donny had done? And if I had, then I knew that I was successful. And all of a sudden I had a way that I could now, if I woke up and couldn't sing or speak or perform anymore, I now had a way to start to teach myself how to do those things. So, like I said, these checklists became kind of a standard of my life. I created a checklist for every single situation, every single audience, every single crowd size, different song genre, different speaking opportunity, all these things on camera with directors, with casting directors, even down to different voice teachers that I was going to, because I would go to a voice teacher in Texas and Utah and Los Angeles every week, and I would rotate between them. And if I would do one teacher's methods at a different teacher's lessons, then I was doing it wrong, right? And they'd be like, "Oh, McCall, did you even practice? Like, that's not what we learn here. That's not what we practiced here." Which once again, I was, becoming this huge disappointment until I had this checklist system. And I realized that every teacher just had their own checklist. So if I could go to one teacher and do certain things with my face, with my voice, with my body, and then turn that checklist off, and then go to a different teacher and do, their specific things with my face, my voice, and my body, that I could be successful everywhere. So I use these checklists forever until I was 18 years old. I was fired from an acting job for being too fat. So I gained weight between the audition and actually when we were filming, and they dismissed me from set because I did not look like what I looked like at the audition, which completely crushed me. Oh, we got it! Yay! Figured it out. Yeah. So I was broken in a very, very real way. And I vowed to never be on camera ever again. And within a couple of years, I had an actress come to me, ask me if I could help her with an audition. She's like, "Hey, you used to do this. Like, could you help me do this?" And I said yes, but only if we could do a before after video so that I could actually see if I was making a difference or not. And we did. I taught her one of my checklists, and it was this seamless transition of this before after video was crazy. The difference was unreal. So it worked, which started my whole first business, which was teaching performers how to sing better, speak better, be in front of people, kind of build an audience, all those kinds of things. And I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of before after videos proving these checklists worked for other people and not just me, which was really cool. Yes. And then I went to this internet marketing convention and I switched every single thing because I started serving entrepreneurs. So with entrepreneurs, they would come up to me and at this internet marketing convention, and they would light up and tell me all the wonderful things they were doing. And then I would see them go to like different networking situations, be on stage, be on camera, and they just weren't the same person. Yeah. And I realized that if they have the things that I possess, the ways to actually be yourself, the ways to actually form a connection and trust with your audience, that their solution would be heard. So that's my story of coming to charisma hacking. And then here we are on this interview, which is so great.
That's what I find fascinating about this. One, is her energy off the charts or what? I mean, I know some of you are probably like, "Oh, water hose," right? And I don't mean that in a bad way, please. I think it's amazing. I'm an introvert, so when I go live, it takes energy for me to be up, and it's a much of that, and that's what I really want to dig into, because with video, and I call it voice marketing, I don't know if that's audio or whatever, there is the need for people to hear, I think, the energy, right? They need to be able to, because if we're live and people can see us, it's a whole different experience. Like, you can see me, you get to see my smile, my face, even the energy. I talk a lot with my hands. And McCall does too. So that piece, though, is super important in the context of video. The voice is still a piece of it. But when you are just standing alone with just your voice, and you're talking about checklists and things like that, like, how can you show up and market successfully with just the voice? I mean, like, if they don't have a visual of you, do you have some strategies around that?
Oh my gosh, of course, yes. So with charisma hacking, so really what I do is I break down what it takes to form a connection and trust with your audience, and how to be, better in front of people, using your voice, your face, your body. They're very, very small details. And every single part of charisma hacking, as you just heard, was born out of anxiety, right? So it was really built for introverts. It was built for people who, if I wake up one day and I'm no longer able to remember anything about the day before, right? How would I reteach myself how to do these things? So absolutely, there's so much of charisma hacking that is built just in your voice, right? So we call these verbal cues in charisma hacking. So they're verbal cues that help the audience get to know our personality. So when you can't see somebody, obviously this happens on podcasts, this happens on Clubhouse, you are really able to hear their personality in a huge way. I even charisma hack on Clubhouse. So I ask people several questions, and then I do this huge analysis of their personality based on how they answer these questions, and like 5 sentences of just hearing how they talk, right? You can tell a ton about somebody just by the way that they speak. So a couple of these tips for your audience. The first thing I would say is I would act as though you are on camera or with a friend or something, right? A lot of times people think because they aren't on video, they can lay down and eyes and like just kind of keep their phone there, and they don't need to be moving around or doing any of these things, when you wouldn't have a conversation with somebody like that anyway, right? So every time I'm on Clubhouse, I'm always like walking around, and I talk with my hands anyway. Your body affects your voice, and your voice affects your body. It's all this big package that affects everything else, right? So if you would normally talk with your hands, talk with your hands, right? The other thing, so this is just a charisma hack, and this is actually an audio technique that I learned as a vocal producer. Smiling, right? And I don't mean just like being happier, because being happier you really can't measure. Everything in charisma hacking is a measurable and repeatable process. It's smiling the mouth shape, right? So actually showing your teeth brightens the sound, and it makes it sound friendlier. So I can show you. So if we talk like this, and if our voices, if our mouths are not in a wide mouth shape, our voice it has a little bit more bass to it, and it has a little bit darker of a sound. If the only thing we change is the shape of our mouth, all of a sudden it sounds brighter, it sounds friendlier, it sounds happier, all of those kinds of things. So I know in customer service a lot, they teach you smile because you can hear the smile on the other end of the telephone, right? The reason for that is it's literally a mouth shape, and it's an audio technique, right? So it's acting as if you are talking to somebody in person, or talking to somebody over Zoom, right?
So it's not actually the smile, it's the shape that forces the sound to come out differently. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So when I started with live video, I really focused on the smiling, and I find that I'm just a happy person anyway, but that's the biggest problem that I have found, honestly, with the masks is when I go out, I can't see anybody's smiles, and they can't see mine. And so it totally takes away the connection, I think. So a smile is so important, I think, even from video, and to your point, even on audio, but for a different reason than I thought. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just thought that's fascinating.
Yeah, no, you're totally fine. It really is, guys. There are so many things that connect your voice to your body and your body to your voice. If you only have one piece of the puzzle, right, video or audio, you are only engaging or being yourself in a half measure, right? It's not something that is engaging all the way if you only have an audio or you only have a visual medium, right? So I have a couple of different rules of engagement. The first one is if they can't see you, you have to be engaging, right? The other one is, or another one is if they can't hear you, you still have to be engaging. The third one is if they don't speak the same language as you, they still have to get correct emotional context of what you're saying, right? So using emotion in your voice is super, super important, and using correct or I call it emotional accuracy with your voice and your body is super, super important. Making sure that people feel what you intend them to feel is a huge part of business. It's a huge part of entrepreneurship, because if you're in control of somebody's emotions, you're then in control of their actions, right?
Yeah.
So making sure that you're showing emotion in your voice as well is very, very important.
So I've often said, if you can make somebody smile, laugh, or cry, you got them, right? Because it's from an emotional standpoint, and that's so much easier, I think, with video, because they get that visual component. But audio voice is extremely powerful, because without, I mean, to your point, if they don't understand the language, what's left? It's the visual, but without the video, what's left? The voice. So it's like the voice can be so powerful. And I don't know if you guys have picked up on this, but I'm super curious as to what is resonating the most with you as it relates to how McCall is showing up. I'd love to drop that, if you guys could drop it in, because what I was super impressed with her around out the gate. Granted, all I saw or actually heard was her voice on Clubhouse. And it was energy for me. It was like passion. And I was like, I could really feel it come through her voice. So I'm curious as to what your impression of her. I know you can see her, so it's not like the same experience. She's beautiful, obviously. But I'm just curious as to your all's impression of her. So basically what you do now is you do something called charisma hacking, which you work with people who are wanting to up their voice or video game. And when it comes to that piece, how do you have a process for that? Like, if you were going to charisma hack Russell Brunson, for example, how do you charisma hack anybody? But let's just use Russell as an example.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, such a good question. So yeah, with charisma hacking, so it's actually really interesting. At the very beginning of charisma hacking, I actually focused on completely different things. When I got back from, it was Funnel Hacking Live, the internet marketing convention that I went to, and I just went to watch my sister-in-law speak. I did not go to change my business. Like I said, I had a very successful business before that was a brick and mortar performance business. But when I went to Funnel Hacking Live, I saw that the worth or my impact on the world could be so much bigger, because the entrepreneurs that I was serving, their impact on the world had like this infinite amount of impact that they were serving these people. So if I could help them, then they could help the world even better. So when I got back from Funnel Hacking Live, the first thing that I thought was like, I can make anybody good on video. I can make anybody more charismatic on video. And, I started with just the tactics. I started with making everybody stereotypically charismatic. And what I very quickly found was, yes, that was successful, right? A lot of people talk about things like the alter ego or creating a character to go on camera or go on stage or all of these different things. And I'm not saying that's not effective, because it absolutely is. But it also creates this new problem, which is you are creating an audience for a human who doesn't exist. You're creating you're creating fans for somebody who, like I said, just they don't exist, right? So when we switched, right, all of a sudden I realized that you have to base every single charisma hacking thing based in somebody's actual personality. You have to make sure that you're making them the most charismatic version of themselves, who they actually are when they're with their very favorite person in the world, right? We're creating this thing I call aggressive devotion. And this plan of creating aggressive devotion is completely based in how somebody actually is. So when you ask, how do I charisma hack somebody, the first thing that I actually do with people live is I start to break down what makes them charismatic? What would draw people to them, right? With elite performers, like you said, with Russell Brunson, I go through different videos, different audio mediums that he has, and I break down every single aspect of what is drawing people to him and why his audience trusts him, right? A couple different elements that we look at are consistency and predictability, right? It's like, okay, what kind of emotion is he actually evoking from his people? And then from there, we get into the really, 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 really nerdy stuff, because we have two different sides of charisma hacking. We have emotional accuracy and we have tactics, right? So the first thing I always look at is the emotional accuracy, right? What is he making us feel? Did he intend for us to feel that? How is he moving us to action? And what tactics is he doing in order to do that, right? So first we say, okay, is he being himself? Is he being predictable and consistent? And do we believe him, right? Do we buy it? And then we go into the actual tactics that he uses. And this is where it gets very, very nerdy, right? We break down very, very small things, like the pitch of his voice, right? We break his voice into thirds and we say, okay, when he has more energy, when usually at the beginning of his videos, when he wants to appear friendlier, then he uses the top third of his range, right? When he wants to establish authority, he uses the mid third of his range, right? We also assess like the percussive nature of his voice, how hard he's hitting his words in order to emphasize things. We break down the pacing. We break down the micro expressions he's making with his face, right? We break down every single part of the tactics that he uses in order to cause those emotional reactions in us, right? So we break down the voice, we break down his face, we break down his body, we break down his language, and we're able to create a checklist, or now because of Russell Brunson, I call them frameworks. We're able to break down actual frameworks that it takes in order to create that trust, in order to create that connection with his audience, so that he can recreate that again, and he could do that over and over and over again.
So question. So basically it's like scoping out what, and like if we were to charisma hack somebody, right? Like if we were like to say, okay, what makes the people in my space successful? Like how do they attract their people to them? We could do the same thing, right? We could go like, hey, let's take a look at some of the things they're doing. Do they smile? Do they raise their eyebrows? Like I heard you say something and I thought this was super important. It was the eyebrow trick. Like, you know, if you're just like, you just sit here, you have no facial expression, you're monotone, you got to move your eyebrows, people.
Totally. Yeah.
So, but you could do the same thing is my point. You could go and check out other people because, and this is the big question I have for you. There are commonalities, right? There are themes. That's why your checklists work. Because you pulled things from like Donny Osmond back in the day. Yeah. You said, okay, these are the things that he did. And in the context of trying to duplicate some of those things, you just did the same thing, right? So there are core things that we, the rest of us that aren't, you know, amazingly versed in this yet, but want to be, we can do some of the same types of things that other people in our space. So if you were to say like, what are some common themes that you see successful people doing when it comes to, you know, leveraging not just, I know we're talking audio, but I think there's a video component because audio is, you know, so important in the video context. But from an audio perspective, what are some of the things that you hear or see most frequently from successful people that are using this as a medium?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. Yes, absolutely. There are common things. So with charisma hacking, like I said before, it's there are all of these tactics in order to evoke emotion from people, right? And all of these tactics are universal. The delivery methods change depending on the person, right? It's how you are going to use this exact same pitch tactic that we're going to talk about. It's how you are going to use this percussive consonant tactic that we're talking about, right? So all of the tactics are the exact same. I have a show that I do every single day on Facebook, and I charisma hack different people every week with different personalities, different audiences, and they use the same tactics, even though they're using them a little bit differently. So you guys can use these exact same tactics, just like Kim said, in order to evoke emotion from your people, right? The most important thing that you look at is this how you act when you are with your very favorite person in the world? world, right? Usually people have a really hard time being themselves on camera or being themselves when they're nervous, right? When they have this performance anxiety. So a couple of these things that you guys can do, we'll start with the audio tactics, because these audio tactics are things you guys can use on Clubhouse or on a podcast. If you guys are nervous about getting on video, totally fine. You can definitely start with audio. The first thing that you're going to look at is something we call dynamic pitch. The dynamic pitch of your voice is how high or how low your voice goes, right? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to separate it into thirds. Exactly what I did with Russell Brunson when I was charisma hacking him. So we have the top third of our range. This is as high as we're going to go. We have the mid third of our range. This is usually where our regular speaking voice lies. And we have the bottom third of our range, right? So with the mid third of our range, when we're talking right here, this is usually where we establish our authority. This is usually where we speak when we're teaching, when we need to drive a point home, right? This is where we establish our authority. If we go to the top third of our range, this does a couple things. The first thing is it is usually what we use when we are introducing something or when we want to add energy to any situation. Also, if we want to soften a message. So I'll show you. So if we're like, hello, my friends. Oh, what's up, guys? Like, good to have you here, right? We use the top third of our range, right? If we want to add, like I said, if we want to add a friendly nature, if we want to soften our message, think of it, the top third of our range is how we talk with or how we speak to children, how we speak to puppies, right? We want to sound very disarming, right? So if we're talking like this and we talk to babies, right? That's all good to do. Exactly, right? That's how those are things that we naturally do with our voices because it's friendlier or it's very disarming. We do the exact same thing with our audiences, right? So if all of a sudden I want to say something that may hurt or may be a little too close to home for people, I can soften a message by making it in the top third of my range as well, right? So the top third adds energy, it makes it friendlier, or it's very disarming, right? So we have the top third, we have the mid third, which establishes authority, and then we have the lower third. So with the lower third of our range, usually I use this when I'm trying to be funny, right? So I use this lower pitch of my voice to add humor, right? And a lot of people do that as well. So we separate our voice into thirds. So this is the dynamic pitch range, right? So what we can talk about very, very technically, which I won't get into this too much, but if you go up 4 or 5 notes, you are using a dynamic pitch principle, right? If you start here and then you go up to emphasize or down to emphasize, you are able to interrupt the pattern of your voice, right? So this is why I bring this up. The most important thing for you to do with audio is to have what we call vocal pattern interrupts. The thing that makes something boring or the thing that will put people to sleep is a consistent pattern. So we have to interrupt that pattern in several different ways. Right. So if we look at things like meditation apps, they are using the scientific principle of a pattern over and over and over again in order to do the exact opposite. They want us to be able to tune it out. Right. So they use a very smooth pitch. It's consistent. It only goes up 1 or 2 notes. They use the same volume. They use the same emphasis, right? The pacing is very constant, right? We listen to that and we're able to tune it out. That's the point, right? But with our own audio, we want the exact opposite to happen. We don't want people to be able to tune us out, right? So we have to make ourselves untune-outable by interrupting that pattern. So once you have this pattern, if I'm going like this and I'm speaking in one pitch or 1 or 2 notes, then if I interrupt that pattern by going higher or lower, all of a sudden it immediately makes people go, wait, what did she say? Wait, what was that? Right? Because the interrupt fires our brain, right? The interrupt makes us tune back in. So we have a bunch of different vocal pattern interrupts where once we establish that pattern, we then establish those interrupts. So dynamic pitch is one of those. We can keep going if you want, but there's so many. There's so many.
so fascinating. So I put the untunable on the screen because I want you guys to see how you spell it in case you're wondering. But the tune, the kind of, if you pull out just the that piece of it, it really keys in on it. One of the things that really caught my attention, and I don't know if this is the right term, but on Clubhouse, you have a bit of, it's definitely your lower third, but it's a bit of a growl. It's like and I'm like, that is so cool. So it goes back to, really just understanding the power of the voice and how we need to, like, I think maybe this will be helpful because you've said it, but I want to like key back in on it. Yeah. When we talk to people in the normal course of like life, like, right, like you and I are just sitting here talking, and we're, we have others listening, but there is a energy that goes into a personal conversation that I think you have to bring to that same experience, because you got to look at it from the other perspective. Like, somebody on the other side is listening to you. Who's that one person? Like, I do this when I'm doing videos because it always feels like I'm talking to myself, like, right? Yeah. So like, how do you like envision that person? And then you talk to that person like you would if you were sitting in front of them. I think that's super important because the energy, you don't want to be monotone. I mean, I've taught this with, not in this exact context, and I'm not a voice expert or any of that kind of stuff, but from the perspective of showing up on live video and showing energy and not having that monotone experience for people, because you'll just put them to sleep. They're not going to like hang out with you. So I love how you explained that. I guess I said all that. So if there are introverts out there who are scared of live video, I've been trying my hardest to bring as many people as I can into the whole live video space. But if they're scared still, they're a little bit worried about showing up on camera. I think that audio or the voice marketing opportunity, like we're experiencing amazing shifts in this space right now with Clubhouse. I think Twitter Spaces is going to add to that pile. What is your take on that? Is this an opportunity for people to really step into a new medium? It's not a new medium because, like, gosh, like radio's been around forever, but we could not get on the radio unless we paid big money, right?
So true.
But that's not true anymore. Like we can have, I mean, it's just like live video has given us an opportunity to have our own TV shows essentially. Yeah. So with this opportunity, do you say, hey, anybody can do this? Like, if you're an introvert, it doesn't matter. Anybody can do this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know I've said this before, even in this interview, but charisma hacking was built for introverts. And I will say something controversial. Introverts, the dream for an introvert is being on camera, and I will explain why, because I know that sounds backwards.
I know, I want to hear this. I can't wait.
Yeah, so with a camera or with something like Clubhouse, you can be alone in your room with only the camera, right? There is not a social anxiety.
Did you hear the growl?
I've never noticed that before. I love that. I'm gonna look for that all the time now. But yeah, it's one of those things that if you are by yourself in your room with a camera, right? That's an introvert's dream, right? But the things that we are adding in that make it difficult are things like performance anxiety, right? And I will tell you, even as somebody who is more introverted, I still get performance anxiety, right? It's just something that we have to practice and move through, right? These charisma hacking techniques were built out of anxiety. They were built out of this fear that one day I would wake up and forget every single thing that I know. Because when you have performance anxiety, when you have anxiety of any sort, that tends to happen, right? That tends to happen. You start to forget the things that you know, right? Now, this is kind of one of two different things, depending on the person. This is how I approach charisma hacking versus some of my clients approach charisma hacking. So for me, because that performance anxiety can kind of wig me out, if I only focus on the tactics and I think I'm not trying to be good in front of people, I just need to do this set of things, it lowers my anxiety. For some other people, they think if I can just be emotionally accurate, and I'll tell you how to get there in just a second, if I can just be emotionally accurate and I don't have to worry about the tactics or even the audience, then it lowers their anxiety, right? So we have these two different sides of charisma hacking because you can approach it either way. Usually for my clients, because they're not used to breaking down all of this stuff, they're not used to being like, okay, what's the dynamic pitch of my voice doing, right? Instead, we focus on that emotional accuracy before the video, and then we measure it if we were effective using the tactics at the end of the video, right? So the way that I would say is the best way to get into this space, or the way to kind of work through these nerves, work through this anxiety, even as an introvert, is first, I would think, and you guys can write it in the comments, who your person is. Who's your very favorite person in the world? Who is already aggressively devoted to you? Who sees every single side of your personality? And you can write it in the comments. For me, it's my husband and my sister-in-law. Right? And then it's asking yourself how they would describe you. What are the core parts of your personality that they see? And then we are just trying to bring that person on camera. We're trying to bring that person to Clubhouse. We're trying to not be anything else other than the most charismatic or the most engaging version of ourselves. Because if we can recreate those relationships, if we can recreate that aggressive devotion on a massive scale, we will draw the right people to us and not worry about this indifferent mass of people who might not like us anyway, right? So we have to make sure we focus on that, right? It's the emotional accuracy. So when you're saying, think of some other person on the other side of the screen, on the other side of the phone, instead of just a random person, right? Imagine the person who's already aggressively devoted to you. Imagine the person who already brings out that authenticity or that emotional accuracy in you, and then make sure you are bringing those emotions that they already see, that you're bringing those tactics that they already hear, that they already see on video, right? That's the version of you that we have to make sure that you're being.
So good. So
Thank
good. So why is it so important? This is kind of an interesting switch to connecting the dots between our voice and the money. So why is it so important to kind of nail this? You know, if we're going to use voice marketing or even video marketing, why is that so important to make sure that we are connecting and, you know, we're attention grabbers or we're moving people to emotion? How does that connect to actually converting and getting people to spend their money with us?
Yeah, that's a great question. So with charisma hacking, what we make sure that we focus on, so there are two different audiences that you can really speak to. I kind of spoke about this just barely. It's the indifferent masses or the aggressively devoted, right? So every single person that I've ever spoken to always worries about how they appear online, right? What they are sounding like on camera, who are they appealing to, right? I did this at the beginning of my career as well. When you focus on all of that, you are not, you're diluting your personality to fit the most amount of people, right? And when you do that, speaking about the money, when you focus on the indifferent masses, when you dilute your personality, when you're not focused on that connection or trust, or really if you only focus on the tactics, remember we did this at the very beginning of charisma hacking, the views went through the ceiling. The comments went through the ceiling for every single person because it fit this mass market of people. But as soon as these people became themselves, essentially all we had created are these one-hit wonder videos, right? These videos that could even go viral, but would not serve this person's business because as soon as they became themselves, those people would leave, right? So a couple different ways that this affects the money piece, like you said, if we focus on the aggressively devoted, if we are drawing the right audience to us by connecting with them in a very authentic or emotionally accurate way, when they come, they never leave, right? When they come, when we are not diluting our personality, but in fact enhancing our personality, when they come, they are aggressively devoted to us. So when they watch our first video, they watch the second and the third, and they buy all of our products. They move up, what Russell Brunson calls our value ladder. They move closer to be closer to us, right? They move into our higher paid programs, and they are more drawn to us, and therefore they are willing to spend more money because we've established this connection. We've established this real trust piece with this audience, right? With the indifferent masses, they won't. They might buy our very first product, yes, but as soon as we become ourselves, like I said, they drop off of our value ladder, right? So instead, we focus on this aggressively devoted audience, and we actually focus on creating this trust factor. We actually focus on creating an authentic and emotionally accurate connection with those people. And yes, therefore, they buy from us more. It also increases the lifetime value of our customer. It makes them trust us faster because we are being all of ourselves. And I do have to tell you, yes, there will be people and probably more people who don't like us because of that, but that's okay. Because even if it hurts your feelings, it won't hurt your business, right? If you are all of yourself all the time, you draw people to you faster, they trust you quicker, and they are going to buy more things from you. They are going to spend more money with you, which lowers your marketing costs, right? Which makes your targeting for ads so much more specific, even your retargeting, because the people who don't like you will know immediately. And the people who do also know immediately, right? It's one of these things that you can really tie every single thing with charisma hacking, with this connection, with this trust, with this authenticity, with this predictability and consistency. You can tie all of that back to sales, all of that back to money, because we're the anti-slimy salesman, right? We're actually creating trust and connection with people. We're not trying to bamboozle them, right? We're not trying to fake them out in any way. We're trying to actually form a connection with them.
Yes. Serve, don't sell, like, right? Yeah. That's one of my core things I always say.
I love that.
Basically it's instead, and don't stress over like the people that show up and, well, I growled at you, or like, don't stress over that. Like, that's not an issue. They're not your person. You're not meant to serve that person if that's the reaction. But the good news is you will really, like, I call them raving fans. You'll really connect with the right people if you show up consistently. We've got people that are watching today that show up every Monday. I love you guys. You're my people, right? So that's the thing, is the key to it all. And I heard you say this on another interview because I was, doing my stalking before.
I love it.
And one of the things that I thought was super value-based that I picked up from you, you said that you had worked with a client whose conversion rates on a webinar was just super low. And she found that she was losing 90% of her people in the first minute and a half of her
seconds. Yeah.
So this is why it's so important that you catch people's interest in the voice in particular, especially if you're doing webinars where there's no visual component to you. You're not on the screen, right? So the voice is so powerful in letting people know what's in it for them. If you're just, monotone and not showing up very good, it's not going to catch people's attention, nor will it hold it. So super important that you inject that energy, I think, into what you're doing. So let's talk a little bit about the future of voice marketing. You see it going? I know that Clubhouse is taking over the world by storm. What is your opinion of Clubhouse, and maybe how will Twitter Spaces throw a wrinkle into the Clubhouse environment? I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are on that.
I love that question. I would say, I think one of the reasons why Clubhouse has been so successful so far, and I do see this being even more amplified in the future, really with anybody who tries to recreate it, is it's giving a different kind of platform to people who feel like the lack of connection, I guess. I think that Clubhouse was launched in a perfect time because of this pandemic, because all of us are craving that connection. What Clubhouse has done is it has taken something called asynchronous communication, which just means one-sided. So even with this kind of communication with your audience in the comments, we would still count this as asynchronous because it's one-sided. Even though we can read the comments, we can't see their faces, right? We can't see a reaction in real time. With me and you, Kim, right now, this is a synchronous conversation because we actually go back and forth. We can feed off of each other. Everything is real time. This feels like a more real connection, right? It's one of the things that people struggle with is asynchronous communication. So with all of the asynchronous communication that's been created because of the pandemic, the only thing we've really had are Zoom calls, and people have Zoom fatigue because of things like business, because of companies needing you to be on a Zoom call all the time, all those kinds of things. What Clubhouse has done is it has given us back this synchronous communication that we've craved so much. It's the back and forth live element to it that I think people are really, really drawn to. They're able to actually connect with people just by popping open their phone. I actually think the fact that it's not recorded, right? The fact that it's not a podcast medium, even though I know a lot of people will podcast and post it live, I guess, on Clubhouse at the same time. I think that that's part of the charm. I think that's part of what draws people to it, is that you can pop in and out at any point and you're going to get a live conversation that's actually happening right then, right? It's given people a voice. It's given people back really a way to communicate with people. And it's given people access to people that they wouldn't have had access to before. I've made so many friends, you included, Kim, on Clubhouse. It's so fun.
So
right?
the first time I met McCall over on Clubhouse, I was like, girl, we're going to be friends. Like,
yes, I was like, okay, Kim, you're my best friend. This is perfect.
We're going to be friends. Yeah.
I think it gives people access. I think it gives them a platform. It's like you said before, some people are really intimidated by video, but with audio, they're totally fine because they can hide, right? They can hide and be like, okay, nobody can see my face, right? It gives people a way to either speak or just to listen, which is a big part of communication as well. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I have no idea what's going to happen with Twitter Spaces, but I would assume, from my perspective, adding more platforms is great because then it gives people even more of a voice, people who can't access Clubhouse, things like that.
Exactly. I mean, the fascinating part is just like I had this conversation on an interview the other day where short form content is so popular right now, right?
Yeah.
All the platforms are like embracing it. Like there's stories, there's like TikTok stuff, there's reels, there's I forget what YouTube is, YouTube shorts. Like there's all this short form content opportunity right now. And the audio will be no different. I mean, Clubhouse came out first. It kind of reminds me back in the day when Periscope first launched. There was, what was that other app? Gosh, this is sad to say. I remember the other app that came before Periscope, but then Periscope came along and it kind of, like the other app kind of died off. Kind of reminds me of that. Now, I'm not saying that Clubhouse is going to die off, but I do believe that all the platforms will eventually embrace this opportunity in some capacity.
Totally.
Twitter is, probably leading the charge because they're in beta right now. But what'll probably happen is the other platforms will either absorb another app or tool that has the audio opportunity. Who knows? But I don't think it's going away. And I think that's why this is such a great and golden opportunity to perhaps step into audio marketing.
Totally.
We obviously, somebody just mentioned, Vicky was mentioning Blab, right? What about Blab? Like when Blab, that was so sad. Meerkat, yes, thank you, Chuck. I couldn't remember the name. Okay, so I know we have some, while we're pulling up the winners for everybody today, I just wanted to, hang on, drum roll. We have Christine is the winner for today's mug. Cute coffee mug. You're going to love it. So Christine, you're going to win. You are the winner for that. And then we have Vicky and Marley are the Clubhouse invite winners. So if you guys the winners, if you would go over to kimgarst.com/winner and send us your details. We'll get everything out in the mail to you ASAP. Okay, so I always just started this. This is kind of a new thing.
Ooh.
Okay, we've talked about a lot of stuff, and I've asked some questions, but what is an important question that I didn't ask?
Oh my gosh! Wow. Let me think. An important question that you did not ask. I don't know. I've never been asked that question before. That's a good question. An important question that you didn't ask. I mean, I would love for your people to connect with me if they can.
Actually, that was my next question, which maybe is the question that I didn't ask.
Yeah.
Is McCall, where can everybody connect with you? Where do you want them to connect and plug in, if you will, to your awesomeness?
Yes, I love that. So with what I do on Facebook every single day, if you guys want to dive into charisma hacking, like I said, I know I'm very nerdy, but you guys can join me with this epic nerdiness. You can go to charismavault.com. It's totally free. You will see every single episode of what I call Everyday Charisma, where I break down so many different people and show you how they are using all these charisma hacking tactics to see how you could possibly use these charisma hacking tactics. And then you can just connect with me on Facebook. I'm a human. I love to connect with people. Making friends is my favorite thing, right? This is why me and Kim are besties now.
That's right.
You can connect with me there too. So yeah, charismavault.com, guys. It will give you all of the answers to charisma hacking. It's very fun.
And you will figure out very quickly how you become untune-outable.
Untune-outable.
Yes, tune-outable. That's hard to say.
I know.
Say that fast 3 times or 5. You might have a tongue wrapper there.
Totally.
But I just want to thank you so much, McCall, for being with us and sharing your wisdom. You guys connect with her, please. I know we've got people live with us, but also those of you who are on the replay. Also, do not forget to check out our amazing sponsor, Restream. So if you're looking to start your own live show, or you want to live stream your webinar or your Zoom or anything like that, check out Restream at kimgarst.com/Restream. Super excited to be using. We did have a few hiccups on the front side. New tool. It wasn't the tool, guys. It was user error. I just want to say. And then I was like, okay, I got me up on screen. I'm not sure I want to mess with the flow, but by the next show, I will have figured it all out. Okay.
I love it. You were great.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe and God bless.
Thank you.